The mining ship Krylon Vex drifted through the dark, silent void between stars. Its engines were quiet, its crew half asleep, their minds focused on the endless search for valuable ore. Nothing ever happened out here. No wars, no traders, no signals. Only the hum of machinery and the cold emptiness of space. Then, it's 3:14 ship time. The silence broke. A faint tone echoed through the communications deck. It was weak, almost buried in background static, but it was there. A sound not made by nature, sound made by intelligence. Technician Varlak looked up from his console, frowning. "Captain, I think you should hear this." Captain Drevin walked over, his four eyes narrowing. Another pirate beacon? Varlak shook his head slowly. "No, it's old. Very old. And it's repeating." The sound played again, a strange sequence of rising and falling tones. Between them were short bursts of something that almost sounded like speech, but not in any modern galactic language. "It could be nothing," Drevin muttered, but his voice was less certain now. "Trace it." Yes. Varlak's claws danced over the console. The computer took its time, filtering the static, cleaning the noise. Slowly, a set of coordinates appeared on the screen. Drevin leaned in and saw the target, a small yellow star far out on the edge of a forgotten sector. Only one. Rocky world orbited in its habitable zone. A blue world. The coordinates were strange. That sector had been empty on galactic charts for centuries, marked only with a dull red warning. Restricted zone. No entry. No reason given, Captain, said Zaire, the ship's science officer, stepping closer. "I've read of this place. In forbidden archives. If this is what I think it is, we should leave now." Drevin gave a small, humorless laugh. "Leave, when there could be treasure there. An unclaimed world? No, Zaire. We investigate." Varlak hesitated. "Sir, the signal, it's not just tones. It's a voice." The computer worked harder, piecing together fragments. Slowly the voice came through. It was deep, cold, and precise. The words were in a language none of them knew, but the translation algorithms began to catch up. The message repeated, clear this time. "If you find this planet, leave it. No second warning." The bridge went quiet. Even the background hum seemed to fade. "An old threat," Drevin said at last, forcing a smile. "Probably sent by some dead race long ago. We'll be fine." Zaire stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Captain, the archives spoke of a species. Called humans, they were dangerous. Too dangerous. The galaxy decided it was better to erase them from history than to destroy them outright. That signal, it matches human record patterns." Drevin waved a hand dismissively. "Stories for children. You believe too much in myths. Prepare for a jump." The crew obeyed, though unease hung in the air. The Krylon Vex's engines roared, and the ship leapt through hyperspace. When the stars settled again, they saw it. The planet floated in the black like a jewel, oceans of deep blue, swirling white clouds, green continents dotted with mountains. It was beautiful and silent. No satellites, no visible cities, no signs of life. "It looks dead," Varlak said softly. "Dead means unclaimed," Drevin replied. "Scan for resources." Zier's scanners swept the planet. Massive mineral deposits. Clean water. Oxygen-rich. Atmosphere. And... His voice trailed off. "And what?" Drevin demanded. "There are structures. Large. Metal. Some still active. They're buried under the surface, deep underground. I'm detecting power sources ancient, but still running." Drevin smiled greedily. "Then we found something valuable. Prepare landing protocols." Varlak glanced at Zaire, who shook his head slowly. "Captain, this is a mistake." "Noted," Drevin said. Ignored, but noted. As the Krylon Vex descended through the atmosphere, the crew watched the planet's surface draw closer. They passed over wide plains, towering forests, and shattered ruins of what must have once been massive cities. Skyscrapers lay broken like the bones of giants. Roads were cracked and overgrown, but strangely intact. The ship touched down in what had once been a city center. The air outside was clean and cool. The wind carried a faint scent of salt and rain. They stepped out, weapons ready, scanning. The silence pressed in on them. No birds, no insects, nothing. It's too quiet, Varlock whispered. They moved through the empty streets. Cars, or what they assumed were vehicles, still sat in place, doors open as if the occupants had left in a hurry. In some buildings, tables were set with plates, as if waiting for a meal that never came. Zaire stopped, kneeling beside a wall. His hand traced strange marks carved into the stone. They were words in the old human language. The translator struggled, then displayed the meaning. We are still here. Zaire's skin turned pale. He looked up sharply at Drevin. We have to leave, now. Before Drevin could reply, the comms officer's voice crackled over the radio. Captain, we're picking up something. Movement. Multiple contacts all around us. From the shadows between buildings, lights flickered, red, sharp, and watching, shapes moved with silent precision, too fast to track. The crew raised their weapons, scanning for targets. But nothing came closer. The voice came again, this time not through the radio, but from somewhere deep in the city itself. It was the same voice from the signal, clearer now. You were warned. The lights vanished. The silence returned. And the hunt began. The Krylon Vex sat on the cracked streets of the dead city. The crew had not slept. They stayed inside the ship, watching the dark skyline through the viewports. No one wanted to admit it, but all of them had felt it. The city was watching them. Captain Drevin sat in the command chair, his eyes fixed on the comm screen. The signal they had followed was still there, repeating every 30 seconds. The same deep voice. The same cold warning, if you find this planet, leave it. No second warning. The crew had tried to jam it, but the voice always broke through. Even when the comms were shut off, they could hear it faintly in the walls of the ship, as if the planet itself was speaking. Varlak's claws tapped nervously on the console. Captain, this is not normal. No transmission should pierce it dead. Signal block. Not unless the sender is very close. Or very advanced. Drevin forced a thin smile. Which means whoever sent it is long gone. Stop shaking, Varlak. We're not in danger. Science Officer Zaire turned from his station. I have accessed old restricted archives. His voice was low, as if speaking the words was dangerous. There are reports of this system. All say the same thing. Entry is forbidden. The reason is always erased. But I found something older, before the data was wiped. The word Earth appears again and again, and the warning to never approach it. The name hung in the air like a shadow. Earth meant nothing to most of the crew, but they could hear the fear in Zaire's voice. What is it? Drevin asked. Zaire hesitated. A legend. A story told by ancient navigators. Long ago, a species called humans fought the galaxy. Up. With numbers, but with something else. They were impossible to conquer. When the war ended, no one spoke of them again. It was agreed. Erasing their location was safer than destroying them. Drevin laughed, though it sounded hollow. Legends. Myths to keep children from wandering too far. Zaire's eyes narrowed. Then how do you explain the voice? Before Drevin could answer, the lights flickered. The engines went silent. Every system aboard the Krylon Vex dimmed as if something had reached inside the ship and taken hold of. It's heart, power drop, the engineer shouted. Something's draining us. Shields up, Drevin barked. They're not responding. The engineer replied. I think they're being bypassed. Then the voice returned, not through the speakers, but directly into their heads. It was no longer a recording. It was alive. You ignored the warning. Every crew member froze. Drevin clenched his jaw, trying to sound strong. Who are you? A number. Answer came. Only the sound of footsteps. Not outside, but inside the ship. Slow. Heavy. Metal against metal. Varlak's hands shook over the controls. Captain, all hatches are sealed. Nothing could have boarded without us seeing. The footsteps grew closer. The crew grabbed weapons. The lights in the command deck went out, leaving only the faint emergency glow. Drevin turned toward the corridor. "Who's there?" Shadow stood at the far end. Tall, broad-shouldered, and shaped like them. No, not like them. Like the statues they had seen in the ruins, it stepped forward. For a second, the glow from a panel lit its face, pale skin, sharp eyes that seemed to pierce through them. A human. Drevin's breath caught in his throat. The legends were true. The figure spoke in the same deep voice as the signal. "Leave this place while you still can." The crew aimed their weapons. The human didn't move, didn't flinch. Instead, he stepped into the shadows again. When they rushed to the corridor, it was empty. Systems began to power up again. The engines hummed. Lights returned. The ship was alive once more. "We're leaving," Zaire said immediately. "Now." But Drevin's greed was stronger than his fear. "No, not until we see what's buried here." He ordered the crew to prepare for another expedition, this time into the mountains, where the scanners had found the strongest power readings. Hours later, they flew low over the land. Below, forests gave way to stone peaks. At the base of one mountain, half hidden by rock, was a massive structure. Metal walls, towers, and guns. Huge weapons, still pointed at the sky. "It's active," Zaire said quietly. "After all this time, it's still alive." The voice came again, clear in every ear. "Turn back." But the Krylon Vex descended anyway, and far beneath the mountains, something began to wake. The city lay under a pale gray sky. Clouds moved slow above the broken towers. The Krylon Vex rested on a wide street where glass crunched under the crew's boots. They had landed hours ago, but no one spoke much. Even the smallest sound seemed too loud here. The streets were strange. They were not covered in dust or overgrown like ruins on other worlds. Instead, everything looked paused. Cars sat in neat lines, doors open. Streetlights stood tall, their glass unbroken. Still held displays, clothes, food packages, tools as if someone might walk in any moment and buy them. But there were no people, not a single living thing. Captain Drevin led the group forward. "Scan for life," he ordered. Varlock checked his reader. No heat signatures, no movement, nothing living within 5 kilometers. They passed a building with tall glass doors. Inside was a restaurant. Tables were set, plates still full of food, long turned to dust. Chairs stood where they had been left. It looked as if the people had vanished in a single heartbeat. "It's like they were taken," Zaire murmured. They kept moving, stepping around fallen signs and cracked pavement. Drevin's eyes were sharp, always searching for anything of value. He stopped suddenly when he saw a narrow alley between 2 buildings. This way, the alley opened into a small square. The center stood a statue. It was tall, carved from dark stone, and shaped like a human. The figure was wearing armor, holding a strange weapon. At the base, words were carved into the stone. Zaire crouched to read them. Translator took a long time before displaying the result. "We do not forgive trespass." A chill ran through the crew. Drevin stared at it for a moment, then turned away. "Scare tactics," he muttered. They pressed on, entering another wide street. The buildings here were taller, casting deep shadows. It was in those shadows that the first light appeared. It was small, like the glow of a distant torch, but it moved, slipping between the dark windows of an upper floor. Then another light appeared across the street. "And another, Captain," Varlock whispered. "We have movement." "Identify it," Drevin said. "I can't. The sensors. They're not reading anything. No heat, no mass. It's like there's nothing there." The lights began to multiply, dozens now, in every direction. They flickered in and out of sight, moving too fast to track. The crew raised their weapons. Then came the sound, a low rhythmic tapping echoing between the buildings. But not like before. These were many, closing in from all sides. "Stay together," Drevin ordered. The tapping stopped. For a moment, there was nothing. Just the wind whispering through the empty streets. Then a voice spoke from above them. It was the same deep human voice as before. "You were told to leave." The crew spun in every direction, trying to find the source. But the voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. Zier's hand tightened on his scanner. "Captain, I think they're watching us through the city's systems." "What systems? This place is dead," Drevin snapped. "Not dead," Zier replied, waiting. Suddenly, one of the moving lights dropped from a rooftop, landing silently in the street ahead. It wasn't a torch. It was an eye, glowing. Red set into the head of a sleek metal machine shaped like a predator. The machine tilted its head, studying them. Then its jaws opened with a slow, deliberate click. 3 more dropped down behind them. "Fire!" Drevin shouted. The street erupted with flashes as the crew's weapons lit the air. But the machines moved too fast. They blurred through the shots. Leaping onto walls, crawling across ceilings, always circling, one lunged. Varlock fired point blank, hitting it in the chest. Sparks flew, but the machine didn't stop. It slammed him to the ground. The others pulled Varlock back, retreating toward the ship. The machines didn't chase far. They followed at a slow, steady pace, herding them like prey. By the time the crew reached the Krylon Vex, the lights had vanished again. The machines were gone. Inside, everyone was breathing hard. Drevin stared out at the empty street, his face pale. "We move at first light," he said. "We're going to the mountains." Zier looked at him in disbelief. "Captain, they let us go." "That was not mercy. That was a warning." Drevin didn't answer. Outside, high in the dark windows, Red Eyes watched as the ship's lights flickered off one by one. The mountains rose like dark teeth against the sky. Clouds clung to the peaks, and cold mist swirled around the Krylon Vex as it flew low through narrow valleys. The scanners showed strong power readings ahead. Deep inside the rock, Captain Drevin sat forward in his chair, staring at the readings. "That's it. Whatever's down there, it's still active." Zier didn't look away from his station. "That should worry you, Captain. We've seen what active means on this planet." Drevin ignored him. "Prepare to land." The ship descended toward a hidden plateau. At first, it looked empty, only jagged stone and patches of snow. But as the mist thinned, something massive appeared, a fortress carved straight into the mountainside. Its walls were black metal, weathered but intact. Towers jutted upward, each crowned with huge cannons pointed toward the sky. "Those weapons?" Varlock muttered. "They could destroy a warship in one shot." As they approached, the fortress came alive. Searchlights snapped on, sweeping across the ship. Automated defense guns rotated toward them, targeting systems locking. "Shields up," Drevin barked. "They're already up," the engineer replied. "If they fire, we're dead." The crew froze, waiting for the first shot, but none came. Instead, a deep metallic voice filled the cockpit. "Identify yourselves." "Drevin, hit the cum." "We are explorers. We mean no harm." There was silence. Then the voice said, "Land. Alone. Leave the ship." "That's a trap," Zier warned. Drevin smirked. "Or an invitation." Against every protest, Drevin and 4 crew members stepped off the Krylon Vex and into the cold air. The mist closed around them as they walked toward the massive gates. The ground rumbled and the gates began to open. Inside was a wide, dim courtyard. The walls rose high, their surfaces covered in strange symbols. The crew's footsteps echoed in the emptiness. Then they saw movement. From the shadows, armored figures emerged. They walked in perfect formation, each holding a weapon unlike anything the aliens had seen. Their armor was matte black, their helmets smooth with a single glowing visor. They moved with the precision of soldiers trained for. Wardot-1 stepped forward and removed his helmet. The face beneath was unmistakably human, pale skin, dark eyes, a stare like ice. "You are trespassing," he said in perfect galactic common. Drevin raised his hand slightly. "It came for knowledge. Trade, perhaps." The man's expression didn't change. "Leave." Now Drevin tried to smile. "And if we don't?" The human's eyes narrowed. "You die." The air grew heavy. The soldiers around him shifted slightly, ready to fire. Zaire spoke quietly. "Captain, they are not bluffing." But Drevin took a step closer. "You've been forgotten by the galaxy. We can help you return." The human moved so fast that Drevin barely saw it. In one motion, he pulled a knife from his belt and held it against Drevin's throat. The soldiers didn't move. They didn't need to. "You think we want the galaxy back?" the human said. "We left it behind. We buried our names so no one would find us. And yet here you are." Drevin swallowed, his voice unsteady. What? What happened to this world?" The human leaned in close. "We happened, and we never left." He stepped back, lowering the blade, but his voice grew colder. "We'll return to your ship. You will take off. And you will forget this planet exists." Drevin hesitated, his pride fighting his fear. The human turned away, as if the conversation was already over. Two soldiers stepped forward and escorted the aliens back to the gates. The massive doors closed behind them with a final, echoing boom. Back on the Krylon, Vex, the crew was silent. The ship lifted off and drifted away from the fortress. "We're leaving?" Varlock asked hopefully. "No," Drevin said. "Not yet. There's more here, something they're hiding. You just need to be smarter." Zaire stared at him.
"Captain?"
"You're not listening. They gave us a choice. Leave or die. If we stay, we won't get another chance." Drevin smiled thinly. "Then we'll have to take our chances." Far below, in the fortress courtyard, human captain watched the alien ship disappear into the mist. One of his soldiers spoke. "Should we destroy them?" "Not yet," the captain replied. "I think they are hunting treasure. Let them. Soon they will learn what the real treasure of Earth is, and why no one leaves alive." Night settled over the mountains. The Krylon Vex floated in the mist, its engines silent. Inside, Captain Drevin stood over the map table, tracing a glowing line with his finger. "This," he said, "is where the fortress draws power from. Deep underground, if we can reach it, we'll find what they're hiding." Zaire folded his arms. "You mean we'll find the reason they told us to leave? And you think they won't notice?" Drevin gave a thin smile. "If they notice, we'll already be gone." They prepared quickly. No heavy weapons, only scanners, lights, and a few silent blades. The plan was simple. Land far from the fortress, enter through a narrow canyon, and slip inside unseen. The ship touched down on rocky ground. The air was bitter cold, the wind sharp against their skin. Snow crunched under their boots as they moved toward the canyon. For the first hour, everything was quiet. Too quiet. No machines, no red lights in the shadows. It's just the endless white of snow and the black of stone. Then, without warning, the scanners went dead. "What's wrong?" Drevin whispered. Varlock checked his gear. "It's not broken. Something's jamming us." Zaire stopped walking. "They know we're here." Before Drevin could reply, a sound rolled through the canyon, a deep, metallic thud. Then another. The echoes made it impossible to tell where it came from. Shapes began to appear in the mist ahead. Tall, human-shaped, but wrong. Their arms were too long, their heads smooth and featureless. They walked with slow, heavy steps, each one shaking. "The ground, what are those?" Varlock breathed. Zaire's eyes widened. "Decoys. Hunting machines." The shapes didn't rush. They spread out, blocking the path forward and behind. Drevin's hand went to his blade. "We fight our way through." They charged the nearest machine, slicing at its limbs. The blade sparked against metal, but the machine didn't even flinch. Instead, it reached out and grabbed Varlock. Lifting him off the ground, Dr. Evan and Zaire slashed at its arm until it dropped him. They stumbled back, realizing the truth. The machines weren't trying to kill them. They were pushing them step by step toward a side tunnel in the canyon wall. "They're hurting us," Zaire said, panic rising before they could escape. The machines closed in, forcing them into the tunnel. The moment they entered, the walls. Lit with dim blue light, the machine stopped at the entrance. Something else was waiting inside. From the far end of the tunnel, a figure stepped into the light. It was human, the same soldier who had held a blade to Drevin's throat at the fortress. He was unarmed, wearing no helmet, his eyes fixed on them. I warned you, he said. His voice was calm, almost quiet, but it carried through the tunnel. Like thunder, Drevin tried to speak, but the man raised a hand. Save your lies. You think we hide something in the mountains? You're right, but you will not take it. The blue lights grew brighter, revealing the walls and what was inside. Them bodies. Not just human bodies, but alien ones. Dozens, maybe hundreds, frozen in crystal-like structures. Some still had expressions of fear on their faces. Zaire stepped back in horror. You killed them. The man shook his head slowly. No, we preserved them. So others would see. What happens to those who come here? Drevin's voice was tight. You're monsters? The man's expression didn't change. We are survivors. Every alien empire that found Earth tried to take it. None succeeded. You will join them. Before Drevin could react, the tunnel floor shifted beneath their feet. Plates of metal slid apart, and a platform began to lower them into darkness. The machines outside didn't move. The humans simply stepped back into the shadows and disappeared. The last thing Drevin saw before the tunnel closed above them was the cold, silent row of frozen faces staring back at him. The platform stopped in a vast underground chamber. It was silent except for the hum of ancient machines. In the center stood something massive, a black sphere pulsing with faint red light. What is it? Varlock whispered. Zier's voice shook. I think it's alive. The sphere's surface rippled, and a low, distant heartbeat filled the air. The chamber was enormous, carved from black stone and metal. Shadows twisted along the walls, moving as though alive. The Krylon Vex crew stepped carefully onto the platform, their weapons raised, eyes scanning for anything that might attack. In the center, the black sphere pulsed with red light. It was bigger than any ship they had ever seen. Energy flowed across. Its surface like molten veins, and the low hum it emitted resonated through the floor and their bones. What is it? Varlock whispered, his claws trembling. Zaire stared at the readings. I don't know, but it's ancient, older than any civilization we've charted, and it's powered by something alive. Drevin stepped closer. Alive? You mean it breathes? Not like you, Zaire replied. It's alive in a way the galaxy does not understand. It stores power, knowledge, maybe even consciousness. 8. Sudden noise echoed through the chamber, metal footsteps. The humans appeared, moving silently, perfectly in formation. The captain who had first warned them stepped forward. You've seen enough, he said, voice calm. This is the heart of Earth. Every empire that has tried to claim it has failed, and every intruder has died. Drevin raised his voice. You're hiding something. Why? What is this? Why do you protect it? The human captain's eyes. We're cold, because this world is ours, always has been. Humans chose exile, left the galaxy, and hid here. We did not forget. We did not forgive. Any who find us pay the price. The crew froze. Drevin's mind raced. Exile, you mean? You've been alive this whole time? Hidden? Waiting? The captain nodded slowly. Yes. While the galaxy forgot. Earth, we grew stronger. We watched. We prepared. And now, you are the message. Varlock whispered. Message. To whom? The captain's eyes glinted. To the galaxy, you will return to your world. Live or dead, it doesn't matter. If you survive, you will tell everyone who finds Earth. Humans are not extinct. Humans are inevitable. Drevin took a step forward. We can make a deal. Trade, knowledge, resources. We don't want war. Captain shook his head. There is no trade. There is no negotiation. Your species trespassed. You ignored warnings. You woke us. That choice ends here. The humans moved closer, but still. Without raising weapons, the crew noticed something chilling. They didn't need them. The chamber itself seemed alive, responding to the humans' presence. The sphere's pulsing grew stronger. Red energy crackled along the floor, as though the chamber itself was a weapon. Zaire stared at the sphere. It's a trap. Or a defense system. Could destroy the ship outside in minutes. Varlock stepped back, panicking. Then we run, we leave, now. Drevin's pride burned hotter than fear. No, We came too far. We're not leaving without answers." The captain's expression hardened. "Then you will witness the truth of Earth." He raised his hand and the sphere's energy flared. Images filled the chamber, not on a screen but in the crew's minds. Battles older than recorded history, fleets of alien ships burning in orbit, entire civilizations crushed by humans using weapons they could barely comprehend. Then, humans themselves, standing victorious, alone against the galaxy. Varlock staggered. "Impossible." "Couldn't. They did," the captain said. "And every generation since has prepared. Every trap, every warning, every forgotten legend, it was all to keep you out. You are not the first. You will not be the last. And now you are next." The crew realized the full horror. But they were surrounded, trapped, and outmatched. Every plan they had counted on was useless. The humans didn't fight like the galaxy remembered. They fought like the planet itself had joined them. Drevin tried to steady his voice. "We can leave. We can go back to our people, surely." "We can," the captain interrupted, calm as ice. "No, you cannot leave. Not alive. Not now. Earth remembers, and it never forgets." Red energy leapt from the sphere, arcing along the walls. Sparks danced in the air. The platform trembled. Outside, the Krylon Vex rocked, as if caught in a storm. Zyre looked at Drevin, eyes wide. "Captain, it's too late. The moment we arrived, we were already part of their war. A war that never ended." Varlock shook his head. "We should never have come." The captain's voice echoed through the chamber, calm and unyielding. "Your trespass ends here. Galaxy will learn again why Earth cannot be touched. And you will pay the price of curiosity." The crew huddled together. As the chamber's pulse grew faster, stronger, a heartbeat of power, rage, and history, the sphere seemed to sense them, probing their minds, revealing every fear, every regret, every mistake. Drevin swallowed hard. For the first time, he felt truly powerless. The humans were not just alive, they were unstoppable. The war they had started centuries ago had never ended. Outside the fortress, the mountains were silent. But far above the planet, somewhere in the void, the Krylon Vex's fleet began to tremble, caught in a gravity of history and wrath they could not understand. Earth was awake, and the war had just begun. The Krylon Vex shuddered as it launched from the mountainside. The engines roared, cutting through the mist and snow, but Drevin knew it would not be enough. Behind them, the fortress's energy field flared, sending waves of force that shook. The ship like a hand trying to crush it, shields at maximum, the engineer shouted. Sparks flew across the control panels. Zyre pressed his claws to the sensors. They're everywhere. The humans didn't just defend the fortress, they've created a network. Satellites, drones, energy fields. "They're hunting us?" Drevin gritted his teeth. "Then we outrun them." Outside, the mountains blurred past. Red pulses of energy streaked through the air, chasing the ship like lightning, every time they veered toward a canyon to escape. The pulses followed, slicing rocks from cliffs and shaking the ground. "They're predicting our moves," Varlock growled. "Every jump, every maneuver. It's like they're inside our heads." Zyr's claws flew across the console. "They're not. Their machines and systems are tuned to Earth's energy grids. The planet itself guides them. We're trapped. By the terrain, by the air, by the planet." The crew's panic was silent, heavy. Drevin refused to show fear, but every instinct screamed that this chase was not just fast, it was inevitable. A shadow moved across the viewport. One of the drones had already caught up, a sleek black silhouette with a red eye cutting through the mist. It didn't fire. It didn't need to. The moment the Krylon Vex turned, a pulse from the drone disabled one of the engines for a heartbeat, enough to send them skidding toward a cliffside. "Divert all power to thrusters," Drevin yelled. Sparks flew. Alarms blared. The ship lurched, narrowly avoiding a collision with jagged rock. "Captain, there's more," Zyre shouted. Sensors flickered. Hundreds of red dots appeared, satellites, drones, and hunting machines forming a perfect net across the sky. Varlock hissed. No way through. Every exit blocked. Drevin slammed a claw against the console. Then we fight. The crew opened. Fire on the nearest drones, their weapons blazing in bursts of light. The machines dodged effortlessly, twisting and flipping in the air. One drone slammed into the side of the Krylon Vex, tearing through a panel. Sparks rained down on the deck. Suwire swore. They're learning. Every hit we make, they adapt. Drevin's mind raced. The humans weren't just defending, they were teaching the machines how to hunt, how to anticipate. Every corridor, every canyon, every movement of the ship was being fed back into their system. Suddenly, the mountains opened into a wide valley. A river of silver water snaked through it, reflecting the dim light of the planet's sun. Drevin had an idea. "Prepare for Lorbit dive," he shouted. The Krylon Vex dropped fast, skimming over cliffs and trees. The drones followed, but the tight canyon walls forced some to crash. Others hesitated, unsure of the terrain. For a moment, the ship had an advantage. "Go left. Avoid the cliff," Varlock yelled, sweating. The ship twisted sharply, barely clearing a rock spire. Another pulse hit them from above, throwing the vessel sideways. Red sparks flashed across the hull. Zir's claws flew. "They're hurting us. They don't want us to escape. They want us." "What do you mean?" Drevin asked. Panic rising. Their fortress, the sphere, it's connected to traps beyond what we saw. They're driving us toward a location that ensures we cannot survive. They're playing with us. The crew's eyes widened. Every instinct screamed to turn back, but Drevin refused. The ship twisted, engines screaming, as they tried to outrun the relentless red pulses. Then, from behind a ridge, something massive emerged. A black serpentine war machine, hundreds of meters long, rose from the mist like a predator from legend. Its head glowed red. The drones scattered around it, feeding it data. "It's alive," Varlock whispered, terror in his voice. Zir's claws were frozen over the console. "It's powered by Earth itself. It hunts us using the planet's energy. No ship in the galaxy can outrun this." Drevin swallowed hard. "Then we have one choice. Fast jump. Now." The crew scrambled to prepare the hyperspace drive. The war machine surged forward, sweeping the valley. Pulses of energy slammed against the Krylon Vex, shoving it closer to the mountainside. "Jump," Drevin shouted. The ship shuddered violently. The energy spikes struck from every direction. Sensors screamed. Sparks flew across the deck. The war machine's glowing red head lunged toward them. Drevin gritted his teeth and activated the jump. The stars stretched into streaks of white. The war machine's roar echoed in their minds, a warning and a promise. When the jump ended, the Krylon Vex was in open space. The valley was gone, the mountains behind them, but the red pulses still flickered on the sensors. The humans had not stopped hunting. Zir collapsed in his seat. "We barely made it." Varlock shook his head. "Can't outrun them forever. The planet, it's alive in a way we never understood." Drevin stared at the viewport, sweat dripping from his brow. "Then we don't outrun them. We fight. We find out what they're protecting before they end us." Far below, on the surface of Earth, the fortress pulsed again, red light rippling through the mountains. The humans were waiting, calculating, ready to strike. The chase was far from over. The Krylon Vex drifted silently through space, engines still smoking from the last jump. The crew had barely recovered from the chase. Every sensor on the ship screamed danger, but Drevin refused to look away. The humans were not just hunters. They were a force older than the galaxy remembered, and Earth was their weapon. Zir pressed his claws to the console. "Captain, the readings. They're following us. Every jump we make, every escape, they adapt. The entire planet seems linked to them now. They could crush us anywhere." Drevin clenched his jaw. "And then we end this. We find the source. We know what they are hiding, and we take it." Varlak hissed. "You're insane, after everything. We barely survived the chase. He'll kill us instantly." Drevin ignored him. The pride that had carried him this far would not allow retreat. "Prepare weapons. Prepare for boarding. We're going back to Earth." The crew exchanged horrified glances, but they obeyed. There was no other choice. Curiosity had led them here, and Drevin's obsession would see them through. Or into death. The planet's surface shimmered below. From orbit, the mountains and valleys stretched endlessly. But something had changed. Energy pulses lit the entire surface in red, like veins of fire moving across the world. The fortress was no longer hidden. It rose black and massive, surrounded by shields and drones. "Impossible," Zaire whispered. "They've raised defenses. All of them. The planet itself is a weapon." A voice echoed in their minds. Calm, cold, unstoppable. "You were warned," Drevin gritted his teeth. "Then we show them we're not afraid." The ship dropped into the atmosphere. Red energy from the planet's surface surged toward them, striking shields, shattering panels, and sending alarms screaming. The Krylon Vex shuddered violently. The humans did not fire. They did not need to. The planet itself guided energy toward the intruders. Mountains collapsed, rivers boiled, winds lashed like whips across the ship. Every attempt to maneuver was anticipated, every escape blocked. Varlak screamed as a pulse ripped through the deck, throwing him to the floor. Zaire struggled with controls, trying to compensate, but the ship trembled as if alive. Then the humans appeared, not in the fortress, not on the ground, but in space itself. Small craft, hundreds of them, black as night, moving like a single organism. Their weapons glowed red. Their eyes were not human, they were beyond comprehension. "Captain, we can't fight them all," Zaire cried. Drevin's pride burned hotter. "Then fear? We fight one at a time." The first wave hit. Beams of red light tore through the ship, cutting engines, blasting hull plates, and hurling debris across the deck. The Krylon Vex groaned, systems failing one by one. Drevin shouted, "Orders," his voice cutting through alarms. "Focus weapons. Aim for the lead craft." The humans anticipated each move. Every shot was deflected. Every maneuver countered. And all the while, the planet pulsed beneath them, feeding power to the attackers. Suddenly, the black sphere appeared in orbit, lifted from the fortress by unseen force. Its surface rippled with red energy, and the Krylon Vex's sensors screamed. It was alive. It was feeding on every attack, amplifying the humans' weapons, predicting their movements. Before they even made them, Varlak's claws flew across the deck. "It's unstoppable." Zir's voice trembled. "Cannot survive this. They are everything. The planet, the fortress, the humans. All one." Drevin's eyes blazed. "Then we die trying." The Krylon Vex was struck again, hurling it toward the planet. Engines exploded, panels ripped free. The crew clung to anything solid. And just as all seemed lost, the humans' captain spoke through the chaos. "This is why you do not touch Earth. This is why we are never to be found. This is humanity's wrath." The planet itself surged, sending a final pulse of energy that engulfed the Krylon Vex. Red fire, cold as ice, and silence. When the light faded, the ship was gone. No trace remained as the humans returned to their fortress. The sphere pulsed gently, the energy of centuries flowing quietly once more. The planet's surface was calm again, as if nothing had happened. In orbit, no sensors detected movement. The galaxy remained unaware. Yet the message was clear. Any who found Earth would meet the same fate. The human captain looked down at the horizon.com, unyielding and eternal. "Let the galaxy remember. Curiosity has a price. Trespassers pay it in full."